All right, I made the feminists mad. This is going to be fun. I can't reply to everybody as they go too quick, so I'm just going to do it this way. It's more fun anyway, and I want this just for my own personal edification for later on because this is funny as hell. Okay, so I made a comment, and all I did was just talk about birth control and how, from a scientific standpoint, like we really don't know what the long-term, and when I say long-term, I'm talking 50, 100, 150 years of having a society in which women have altered their hormones and bodily chemistry, because it's not just, you need to understand, it's not just the fact that the birth control pill changes an individual's body. Those chemicals stay in their systems. They then pass them as they urinate into, water that's then flushed into the public drinking water. Birth control is in the water now. It's actually started to permeate, and it's affecting other things, not just us. Like, we're having an effect on the environment as well with these chemicals, because as they're beginning to be taken en masse, especially in cities where they're concentrated groups of people who are taking them, and women tend to go in cycles. So like you have this effect where it's stacking on top of it. There's numerous studies about it. What I'm talking about here, I don't have I'm not for or against birth control. I'm just simply saying, like, it's an experiment. We don't really know what's going to happen as we keep doing this. And so I just pointed this out, and oh man, they're going crazy. And as we can see, it's actually ticking up. This started off, there was like 16, now there's 30 notifications. Okay. Okay, here we go. I mean, the easiest Google search tells me you are wrong. Studies on it have been around since the 60s. Okay, studies since the 60s didn't study, so not 100 years worth of data, as I've said. That was the first thing that I pointed out, was this is not it's a long-term thing. And they didn't study it long-term in the 60s. They studied it for a couple of weeks, a couple of months. The whole idea of, it works, is it doesn't kill you. Like the Thymidylide. If the Thymidylide didn't kill you either. Same time period. So we have this one. I always think these are kind of funny. As if $8 is an extremely large sum of money, and the benefits to it, not seeing ads, that's worth it. Like, I mean, come on. Do you watch TV? I guarantee the people that do this, that have this, every single one of them pays for Hulu, Hulu, and probably YouTube Red or whatever that thing is called, and Netflix and 30 other streaming services. How much money I spend on any kind of entertainment? $8. That's it. Just so I don't see ads. Also, I get to post in bold and italics. Over 50 years of research, but do go on. Fake Dr. Thompson. I didn't say I was a doctor. This is nonsense. My guess is you don't know how to access, read, and interpret science. The risk of death due to pregnancy is much more significant. And now that abortion is getting harder to access, these numbers will increase. Move along. Okay. Is there a way for me to do this to where I can get to just the post so I can see? Yeah, this is what I said, just for clarification. Just from a purely scientific standpoint, we should probably stop the experiment of birth control. There were no long-term studies on the effects. They just went with it. That was I'm talking about when they created it. No one has ever studied the repercussions of taking unnatural doses of hormones to women. That's what I'm talking about. So, that's not okay. Hormone therapy is one of many forms of birth control. I didn't say that it was the only one. I just said that was one of them. 50 years aren't long enough for you. No, not for long-term studies. Not when it comes to changing the trajectory of society forever. Like, women haven't ever had this. And so you can say good or bad thing. I have no idea. We don't really know. It's too soon. We might find out in 100 years that it was one of the worst decisions ever because there's some epigenetic effect that's happened that we haven't yet figured out. Like, we have no idea. Thymidylide was thought to be this miracle cure for a long time until the horrible birth defects started to come. And then they found out all you had to do is just touch that. And you could just like have have minimal contact with someone who took the drug and it would still cause birth defects. That's horrific. So like, we don't always know the consequences of our actions. Famously during the Trinity test, when they created the nuclear bomb, when they tested that the first time, they admitted there was a small chance that all the hydrogen in the atmosphere would be ignited and it might kill all life. They went ahead and did it anyway. CERN, they admitted there was a small chance. I mean, it was small, but they might create a black hole and that might kill all life on Earth. They did it anyway. So they're willing to take a risk of killing all life on the planet. You really trust them with birth control? Like, maybe it has some negative effects. That's all I'm saying. All right, total lie, and because its effects have been studied for years, I bet you don't worry quite so much about repercussions when old pervs take Viagra, do you? Interesting, you should point that out. Viagra is actually a heart medication. That's what it was originally for, and then it just turns out it makes you, you can become turgid, which is somehow a good thing from a medical standpoint. So they said, you know what? Go ahead and take this heart medication, guys. Even if you don't have heart problems, take it anyway, and, you can perhaps have more sex when you're older, and maybe you shouldn't be doing it anyway, but whatever, do it. So yeah, that's actually, I don't think Viagra was the best idea. I don't know that I would take it if I were in that situation, because I would ask, well, what did it come from? And find out it's a heart medication. I'm like, well, but my heart's okay. What am I going to do to my heart if I take heart medication that also happens to increase blood flow downstairs? So yeah, I do worry about that. It's not a really valid comparison either. Nice logical fallacy. Another one of these. Fake doctor. Okay, fake doctor. Didn't say I was a doctor. Just pointing things out here. There are many studies now. Many search engines are our friends. Notice they don't point one out. It's because if they go look them up, they're going to find out real quick that I'm correct. That they didn't actually study the long-term effects. They just let it out, and you're just part of a giant experiment. And there's a complex psychological phenomenon that goes on when people are part of something that they know to be either harmful to themselves or that they, got swindled on in somehow. And that is, you don't ever want to admit that you've been swindled, because we take all affronts to the ego personally for some reason, instead of just treating it as like, I was swindled, so if I was swindled, then it's their fault, not mine. But again, that's the way our society's been built. Okay, so we'll go on. Have you considered that some women don't want to become mothers and just having a period is a burden for women? I do consider that. I get it. Like my daughter is just learning about that joyous event, and she's 13 now, and she's like, so this is it, huh? This is forever now. Yay. And I understand. That is a rough predicament. Every month you have to go through debilitating pain and cramps, and you have to go through bleeding. That's uncomfortable. I mean, as a man, I won't ever understand that. I'm not ever going to be able to experience that. So I'll be honest. I have sympathy for women, and if you can just turn it off, I get wanting to take a pill, but I would still be asking myself, well, what's the cost of doing this? Because every woman throughout all of time went through this. So I get it. It's a burden. It sucks, but it's also part of being human. So I don't know that you get to run away from it. This from a group that wants sterilization for black and brown females. I'm not a Democrat. What? I'm not a eugenicist. That's what Democrats want. Democrats encourage black women to kill their babies. They like it. In New York, more black babies are killed than are born now, thanks to Democrats. They hate you. They're racist as hell. And brown, I assume you're talking about like Latinos. Latinos don't really abort their babies so much. Most of them are like, they have a disproportionately large number of Catholics in the Latino community, so they don't actually kill their babies. The number one and number two, users of abortion are black and then white. So and they make up like 80+% of abortions. So I think it's in the 90s, to be honest with you. Okay, so Buddy said purely scientific. Yeah, I did. I said in a purely scientific sense, and everyone took it emotionally. And it's hilarious though. This is great. I enjoy this. Minions, sweet. My daughter loves those. Purely pulled from his rectum. That's not bad. That's okay. We'll tolerate that. I will say this. If you go to Universal Studios, the Minions ride is a little disappointing. Skip it. You are an effing liar. A pill was being used in England years before us. And they did the same thing, which is they just gave it to women and said, give it a try. We'll see what happens. Good luck. Also, keep in mind, they did this during the same time period. I'm going to scroll up to get away from the minions. During the same time period when the Tuskegee experiments were going on. You remember those where the government of the United States let black men with syphilis, one of two things. They either infected them with syphilis, or men who already had syphilis, they just let them suffer with it, and they gave them fake treatments to see what the effects would be. That's the same time period and the same people that said take birth control. Okay. So hundreds of millions of women have taken birth control. Yes, and a lot of them report like big problems with it. I've known many women in my life that have all said after they stopped taking the pill, life's better. So anecdotally, I haven't met anyone who started taking the pill and they took the pill. I'm 41, so I know a lot of different people that have taken the pill for a long time. And after they had, like when they wanted to have kids and so they stopped taking the pill, they're like, oh wow, I kind of like this better, and they didn't ever go back on it. That's kind of a thing. So just because a lot of people have done it doesn't mean that it's correct or right or that it works or that there's not problems or that what I said about this is a massive experiment we don't know the long-term effects of still holds true. More than most any other medication, it's a personal choice. No legislature will ban it. Now we're making a false equivalency here because the topic at hand is not birth control, rather the abortion pill, which is not birth control. Those are wholly different things. Let's see. My IUD doesn't have hormones, bro. The IUD didn't exist when the first birth control was there. And those, if those things break, I know a woman that had with the little Y clip one, and the horror stories she talks about with that. I feel so bad. Be real careful with those things. Real careful. Those things can be a dangerous thing. Let's see. There it is. That's the wrong there. If you're going to say this is the dumbest thing you'll read today, man, you really should use the correct there. Truly a ridiculous argument. No, except you couldn't refute anything and you just said that. We got a GIF. We got someone with the I don't even care. It's not a good one. I don't recognize it. So maybe it's good and is relevant. I don't know. But wait, you're just a bot. Ooh, there's something unique. There's no scientific evidence proving birth control kills women. What? I didn't say it kills women. Why don't you do some thorough research? But you didn't give anything because you have nothing. Flyover Country says the pill became commercially available in 1960. Women who began taking it then already had kids. We boomers had all had at least 2 siblings, usually 3 or more, and are at least 85 years old now. Most of them are mothers, took the pill for the rest of their childbearing years. That's not really true. That is so not true. That's just like statistically that's false, and like anecdotally, I know a lot of people that's the opposite of. I just got through saying that. You're massively ridiculous. PubMed study. So finally, someone actually published something. Cool. We'll look at that in a minute. It's still not gonna. What I said is correct. When they pushed this out, they didn't have long-term data. They just let it go. They just figured it'd be okay. And the middle lied. Remember, same time period. Says at the bottom, no known long-term effects. Right, I didn't say. That's the whole point, is unknown unknowns. But at least somebody put, they went through the effort. I will, give you that. You at least did that. And if we scroll through and we look, we'll see. Really? And so this isn't even, so this is a between, contraception use, cancers, and come on, I'm talking about major effects over like the whole society, not just individual cancer things. Come on now. But again, they tried. Okay, so dude, you pay $8 a month for Twitter and the only people liking your tweets are porn bots? What? First of all, who cares about likes? I don't. Like, if you haven't figured, that's easy enough to figure out based on the fact that I don't follow anybody and I don't ever post anything about that stuff. But okay, so your posts scream loneliness. This person, whomever they are, did not go through and read. I have a bunch of posts, so there's no reason that they went through and read them all, which can easily be solved if you just logged off and hung out with real people, which I do. I'm going to say you're 40 to 60. You're correct, which is weird because you seem like an incel. No, I have a daughter. You know what? Yeah, I have a 13-year-old daughter. You sound like a brain dead man. How sad. So again, no argument. Just attack the speaker, because when you can't argue, attack the person. It's been wonderful for me. I love not having vicious mood swings, cramps, bleeding through my clothes, and being bloated. Okay, so I can understand an individual experience like that. So my question to this person would be, so how long have you taken it? And when you stop, what's the effect on your brain? Like, how do you feel mentally? Because the number one thing that I have always noticed with every woman that I've known that stopped taking the pill after a while was they said they felt a lot better, especially when it came to things like reading. How would you characterize the way you formulate thoughts? And this is particular for people that have, I assume on here, at least some of these people don't have inner monologues. I have only met a handful of people like that in my life, but I assume for those kind of people, it makes it a little bit different. But I'm not sure how that works. Okay, and wow, there's more people. I thought I would be done here. I thought I've gone through 30, and it says 14, so I got more in the time. I may have to stop. What time is it? Yeah, I may have to stop. Okay, so what will it do to society? Guess what? My fertility has nothing to do with society. Well, actually, Katrina, it does, because here's the thing. You're part of society. You're part of a neighborhood, which is part of a community, which is part of a city, which is part of a state, which is part of a country, which is part of a world. We're all nested inside of this, and we all play a little role in how society itself moves forward. You know that whole adage about how, like, if you went back in time and you stepped on a butterfly, you could greatly affect the future, and you don't know what would happen. You actually are that butterfly right now. You have the ability to affect the future 50, 100, 500 years from now. Who knows what you might do just by simply altering some minor little detail. Now, nobody really knows. Rosa Parks had no way of knowing that her one little stand was going to have such a massive effect. I mean, she did not sit there and wake up that day and say, you know what, I'm going to start a movement, and this day is going to be remembered forever. She just had enough of it and said to one man, to one person, no, sir, I will not move. And it went beyond her. Gandhi didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to change the world. It simply happened because he did what he knew was correct. Martin Luther King was the same thing. Now Martin Luther King was probably aware of the fact that he was going to have an impact. He was an intelligent man who obviously studied Le Bon and some of the other great minds. So he was aware that he was making a difference, but he had no way of knowing. And you could tell on that first speech, if you've seen a colorized version of it, it's great. You can see the details and the expressions in his face. He was so in awe of how many people, he knew it was going to be people, but he did not know it was going to be as big as it was. And you could tell the gravitas of the situation was there with him. So, sometimes you might be aware of it, but the vast majority of the time, nobody knows what's going to change things. So what does it matter what any individual does? It matters because every individual is society. We're not a collective. We're a whole group of individuals. So what happens to every woman matters. And we don't know what's going to happen with taking the birth control pill. Again, I'm not advocating for or against. I'm saying we should probably collect data and really figure out what it's going to be. Okay, Mr. Just Some Guy. Okay, so they looked at the profile a little. Apparently, you haven't ever suffered from debilitating menstrual cramps. Nope, haven't. And the fact that taking birth control pills lessens those cramps so you could live as a normal life as possible. Again, that's one of those individual cases where I could totally see that. I know people, especially those with endometriosis, birth control seems to help out a lot. And I have a lot of personal experience here. And same thing, though. When you stop taking it over time, sometimes the effects on your conscience and your psyche are so great that you don't want to go back to the way the pill made you feel before. But you know what? It's not going to be the same for everybody. So I'm not saying get rid of it. And for people that it's working for and doing something good, keep doing it. Nothing wrong with that. We don't need 100 years worth of data. Nothing needs that. I don't know, man. Thymidylide could have definitely used some more. And I just don't know about being part of an experiment. This is kind of like Neuralink. Would you just take the Neuralink and graft something into your brain? I wouldn't. And who are you to be the judge of anything about the results of scientific research studies? I'm not. I'm just some guy questioning things. That's it. How do you get long-term studies if you don't start studying a drug from the time it's new? Well, you don't prescribe it to society at large. That's the thing is we probably should have studied it individually, like in a small scale, do some double-blind testing, then do it as a whole society. But we did it as the whole society. And back to Viagra. Viagra has more negative side effects than abortion pills, but nobody seems to care about that. I do. I don't think people should do it. I think it's a bad idea. It's a heart medication that's being used for other purposes. It's an off-label use that I don't know that benefits it. Let's see. Birth control has been studied to death, and the side effects are explained when you take it. Again, they didn't study it when they prescribed it. No one is murdering babies other than right-wingers with guns. Oh, that must be something to do with one of the abortion conversations. But no, that doesn't really happen. The people murdering babies are the abortion doctors. Let's see. Tried to as well. I don't know there. Oh, just the usual conservative, racist, and misogynist, which I didn't say anything racist or misogynist, so whatever. Tired arguments. We don't go for many of the meds we use. Yeah, that's correct. And that's a bad thing. SSRI drugs too. Think about all the SSRI drugs we just test without any long-term studies. And we just say, yeah, take them. Let's see what happens. Women have been using birth control for decades. Not sure what more you need. That's the question. That's the point is maybe we've got, let's look at the data. Let's see, is it a good or is it a bad thing? I'm not saying one way or the other. I didn't say stop. Let's see. You are the one of the, okay. You are one of the quackos who thinks we are all going to turn into zombies because of 5G. Yeah, your opinion is, I did not. I made a joke. I think that's hilarious. Matter of fact, my phone went off a little while ago. I'm still all right. I didn't take the vaccine though, so maybe it wasn't working for me. Though I haven't heard any like gunshots outside, so it seems like everything should be okay. And again, those were jokes. Can you not tell what jokes are? Apparently not. So we could start by neutering the ejaculator shower. I love that. That's glorious. Okay, so we could start by neutering the ejaculator shower. That usually works out well. Your specific questions as a scientist, or I'm just probably as the latter there, because this is Twitter. Just having it, just pointing things out, but it's hilarious nonetheless. States' rights have always been a red herring, so I wonder if they're a Clue fan. Oh, the Village Idiots is their name. That's appropriate. Okay, so if your daughter were raped and got pregnant, would you consider that a trade-off? So always with an edge case, so I'm not going to entertain something horrific like that. We light that firecracker when we get to it. When in the case of rape with abortion is obviously what we're talking about here. So that's a dual tragedy. So if you rape someone, that's a tragedy. That's a horrific thing that should not happen. So the pregnancy that results from a rape is a separate issue that if you kill that baby who's innocent of the father's crime, that's just another tragedy. That's another act of force on top of it. So I would not tell a woman who's been raped, you must carry this baby to term. I would say if you want to abort that baby, it's just another tragedy. I would say it's a tragedy and mourn the loss of that baby, but I wouldn't stop it and I wouldn't shame the woman for doing it because that's a horrible situation to be in. It's also an edge case that represents like 1 or 2% of rape, of abortions, and so we're not talking about the vast majority of abortions are birth control after the fact. So, okay, going back here again with those. This one is, if you're going to do that, it should be with the eye kind of twisted down a little bit the other way. Could care less what many people might think, including sleazy tabloid journalists like Ian Halprin. Many people believe in alien abductions too. Do you normally just casually toss around murder accusations with no real evidence? Kind of out there. Oh, you know what? That's about Kurt Cobain and Courtney. Yeah, my personal belief, I think Courtney had something to do with it, but I have no evidence of that. I read a book like 20 years ago. This graduate of the Midvale School for the Gifted is just some guy making idiot points while paying for this hell site. I mean, that's kind of funny. There are hundreds of studies on this topic, but not the ones addressing that I said. That's what nobody with any sense relies on what you think. You pay for Twitter and have 85. I have 85? I thought I had like 20 or 30. I have 85. That's probably wrong. I must be like 58. Okay, so that one's kind of funny. I'll give you that one. You know that he's got the picture of Elon with thinning hair. So, okay, it doesn't hit that hard. It's hilarious. Time you're the only person that can't see that. That's not related to this topic. Are you serious? Birth control has come a long way over the years. Geez. So yeah, I'm serious. We haven't really studied the long-term effects. So again, emotion-based response, just mad. And this is from 8 minutes ago, and there's still 20 more. I'm going to have to stop soon. Yeah, it's 2:00. Definitely going to have to stop soon. How long has this been going on? This has been going on for a while. 26 minutes. I got to stop soon. Definitely got to stop soon. So I'll go just a little while longer. Let's see if I can get, it's almost to the top. I can do this. Okay. Where are we at? It doesn't hit hard. I said that. Are you serious? The 19th was a mistake. That comment gives you away. That's a joke. Not really. I mean, it has a consequence. It has an effect on it. This is not about long-term studies. It's about control over women. Mind your own business. You know what? But the thing about the 19th Amendment is that if you let people that have nothing to lose vote for people that can vote for war, then they can change the outcome of society. And there can be a huge argument made that letting women vote without subjecting them to the burdens of citizenship and voting, meaning they had to serve in the bucket brigade and had to go to war and fight, if they had to make those, they wouldn't necessarily have voted for World War I, World War II, and things like that, and for the people that kept those systems going. And so, yeah, I love to make those jokes because it makes people, really get all butthurt, which is funny. So I've got someone with that. So that's probably why more people are probably going to say stuff. So, okay, you think we should have 100 years of data for any pharmaceutical, not necessarily any, but one that's going to greatly alter society. Yeah, we probably should have more data on that before we make a decision on how we proceed. But also that means that I'm not willing to get rid of birth control right now because we need 100 years of data for birth control. So we need another 30 years. And in 30 years, we can make a decision. Should we stop birth control? Because then we have 100 years of data and we can make an educated decision. Was it a good or a bad thing for society? Because what we really need is we need several generations to start and, live through their lives and then pass away. And that takes 100+ years to do, That's just the way of things. It's the way life works. It's the way of studying socioeconomic trends. When you're studying a long term, America's a tiny, short-lived country. France is a 2,000-year-old country. Okay, Greece is thousands of years older. Is even older than that. Egypt, Persia. These countries go back. Japan, China. These countries have been around forever. Okay, we are extremely young. A lot of our stuff is so novel. We don't have a lot of data. It's not even an issue. It literally does not exist. You're making up problems. No, that's you not coming up with anything genuine to it, just having an emotional reaction. But it's funny. Either way, I enjoy it. Okay, if you're worried about birth control, one, people have been using birth control in some form for thousands of years. Not like what we're doing now. Come on now. Drove a plant near extinction because they used it for birth control. That is not an argument. Two, don't take it. I'm definitely not going to. Your anxieties shouldn't dictate what another person can do with their body. And I didn't say that they did. So not arguments again, but funny. Let's see. You're the dumbest mofo today. Congrats. Appreciate your vote of confidence. Let's see. Sheldon Segal is an endocrinologist who says having fewer cycles, i.e. using birth control, correlates with lower cancer risk for women. If there were real problems, we would know after 50 years of birth control usage in the U.S. Okay, so I've seen this one, and this is an interesting study. So there's something to be said for that. But then there are also studies that say that when you, so lowering the number of cycles can, seems to correlate with a lower cancer risk, but at the same time, you're increasing another type of cancer risk because you're changing the hormonal balance. So you're increasing breast cancer. So you're trading off one. So you're like lowering like vaginal cancer, but increasing breast cancer, I think was what it was. Or maybe it was another. No, I think it was, I'm fairly certain it was breast cancer. But yeah, I do remember that study. Okay, so hey, mister, it's been available since the 1960s. It's now 2020, so that's over 60 years, and we do know the side effects of weight gain, blood clots, headaches, HPB, etc., and consider them better than pregnancy. Right, so you're kind of proving what I'm saying, which is that they did it without really testing it, and they just made you the experimental guinea pigs. We're still doing that. 60 years is not that long when we consider sociological times over that. Shush, good response there from Just Julie. This is demonstrably false. No, it's not. It's not a response. Hey, I got to the top. There we go. Okay. Because men need voters. I would disagree with that. I think there's probably better ways that you could go through it. All right. I'm going to stop now before anybody else responds because that was funny. Either way, that was a good 31 minutes. I had a lot of laughs. So appreciate that for all of you. Because I doubt any of you will ever see my response because I'm not going to go and tell each one of you. I'm just going to post it once and no one will ever see it. It doesn't matter. Either way, I had fun. Oh, and just for fun, I'll end it with what's the funniest joke in the world? I hope you're sitting down. Get ready. Women's rights.